Welcome to another video. I'm really doing this one ASMR style. I'll be whispering the whole time. It's time to buy snow tires. I know we're supposed to be doing cookware, but the thing is with cookware, there's not that much to be told. I mean, other than just buy ceramic, it's well worth it. And there aren't that many options after that anyways. Snow tires are a whole different thing. They're somewhat complicated to purchase, and finding trustworthy information is hard to come by. So, anyways, let me walk you through my process. The first thing when buying snow tires is you need to find trustworthy reviews. I have nothing against 1010tires.com. For example, they offer nice reviews. The only issue is if you start looking at them, you'll soon realize they're not professional reviews. They're user reviews. So that means that people come by and they just type in their reviews. They're the same as if you went to the Home Depot website. I mean, you can't really trust what people say, obviously. Some people can be somewhat objective, but most are subjective, and we all know that cognitive dissonance theory tells us that you're trying to make your brain be right. So if you bought really bad tires and you hate them, chances are you probably won't talk about it. So user reviews cannot be trusted in general. On the opposite, on a similar type of company, you have Tire Rack. The distinction between Tire Rack and 1010 Tires, for example, is that on Tire Rack, you get some decent professional review. They actually bring the tires out on the track. The advantage of having a professional reviewer rather than user reviews is that the professional sees many tires. So they have something to compare on, they have something to appreciate. A user like myself, for example, I buy a new set of tires every 3-4 years. I have no point of reference. Whereas a professional reviewer that tries a bunch of sets of tires of different brands and makes on the same car, on the same track, on the same day, that person has a lot more judgment, a lot more awareness as to the differences, the subtleties between each of the different tires. And that to me is important. Now, obviously, you can always go to consumer report type reviews. They're decent as well. But I like Tire Rack for some reason. I find their reviews very, very thorough. There's a bunch of others. The idea is just to understand what you're reading when you're reading for reviews. Are they made by professionals? Is the person making their reviews selling tires, which can affect it? So, for example, Tire Rack has no evaluations of like don't get tires because they don't sell them, which to me was an annoyance because they're some of the best tires. So I had to work a little bit more to try and have different reviews compared, but a lot of the review will be based on the Tire Rack reviews and then collated information from different other places. Another thing you need to compare or to consider when you're looking at reviews for winter tires, or all tires anyways, you need to be looking at the right category. As you can see here, if I zoom it in, winter tires come in different shapes and sizes. Not just shapes and sizes, but for different usage as well. For example, you have the Touring tires, and then you have the SUV light truck. And that's fairly important because they don't offer the same tires for cars and trucks. They don't have the same models. And this you need to know before you start shopping these. Also, you need to look at your own laws. So, for example, where I am in Quebec, it is mandatory to have winter tires, before December 1st. You cannot use all-season tires in the winter. So you need to consider road laws where you're at. In this example, I'm shopping for a 2017 Toyota Corolla. So I'll be looking at passenger touring cars. Okay, once we're there, we need to consider a bunch of factors. So for example, if you can consider all season versus winter. If you live in an area where the temperature varies in the low tens to the upper single digits in Celsius, obviously, you might want to consider all season. Winters really become important under 7 degrees Celsius. Or, well, if you listen to the manufacturers, but I trust them a lot for this. I understand that, physically speaking, rubber reacts differently in the winter and in the summer. You also need to consider your local weather. Is it very hard snow, very heavy snow, or do you live in more of a rainy area or an icy area? The area where I live in, the issue is mainly with ice. We do have a lot of snow, but snow gets plowed very quickly on the roads. The issue is more about black ice, and so I'm always looking at the tires that will react the best under icy conditions. You have to think about your types of driving. What I mean by this is, are you mainly driving on highways, such as myself? Highways are always cleared, even in the morning. I mean, they're well kept and well maintained. So I don't need to look at tires that are beasts under heavy snow conditions. I never deal with those. Do you live out in the country with those creepy roads that wind and are poorly kept? In that case, you might want to consider different options. Also, are you a more aggressive or are you a more safe driver? Now, if you're more aggressive, you might want to pay up, like get one of the best tires around. Whereas if you're more of a quiet driver, in that case, you might consider lower quality tires because you're driving them more safely. Personally, I live in the country with those country roads and everything. I was always told never to go cheap on tires, so I'm always shopping for the best, but the best at a reasonable price, so the best bang for the buck within the top ranking tires. So I'll show you. Price is a factor. Now it goes anywhere from $250 per tire to barely $100. That's a big difference. Now, so based on how much money you can put in on your tires, it'll affect your decision. Finally, you want to consider either studded or not. They have their own advantages and disadvantages. Studded will always be better than not studded. It breaks faster. Anyways, whatever review you look at, they'll always tell you studded is more effective in the winter. However, many places don't allow you to have studded tires. So, for example, if you're winter shopping, most underground parking lots will not allow you to bring in a car with studded tires. It seems frivolous, but it's something to consider when you're buying studded or not. Even though I live out in the country, I never buy studded because I like the freedom of being able to go anywhere I want. Plus, I drive on mainly highways. Highways are always clear, so I never really use those studs. Was I a little further down? No. And if I had to drive on those country roads, I'd probably opt for the studded. Anyways, this is what I got. So, I end up on comparison with these 5 models. So as you can see, it's a Toyota Corolla. They're a 16-inch, so I was looking at touring tires. I was comparing a top selection of tires that I could get my hands on. So just a quick introduction. Blizzak tires from Bridgestone. I've had some of them. I like them. They wear off pretty quickly. That's their bad reputation. But no, they always come either on top or second in any review. There's the Gislavit Nordfrost 200. I have a set of those on the van. They're pretty good. They're really decent. They're made by Continental, and they have a good price. They're supposed to be some of the best studded tires out there. These are the unstudded ones. Michelin X Ice 3 is getting a little old and still very extremely expensive this year. I've had some of those on an older car that we had. I don't know, I guess early 2010s. I didn't particularly enjoy them, but like they were decent enough winter tires. There's the Nokian Agapelita 10. I made a spelling mistake right there, it doesn't matter. Those are the best of the best tires out there. No matter what reviewer you look at, as soon as they put them in the mix, they'll come on top. But they're also priced accordingly. They're pretty expensive. Surprisingly, in this case, the Michelin was more expensive. I didn't quite have an exact price for the Akas, but now they were something shy of $215 a piece. Then you have the new series, Michelin X-Ice Snow, which is meant to be more effective in snow, which was the weak spot of the X-Ice 3. So anyways, I mixed a little bit of tire rack, a little bit of elsewhere to try and make this stable as objective as possible. Now, if you look at this table, you'll notice that I put in the factors that I care for. So for example, I have a would buy category, because sometimes I would also consider tires just to compare tires that I would not necessarily consider buying either because they're not available or because I don't trust the brand and whatnot. Then I'm using Tire Rack's division of things. So wet performance, dry performance, snow and ice performance, comfort, tread wear, which is the speed at which or the lasting, like how long do they last, and finally the price. Then, as you can notice, there's a score and there's a percentage. The percentage is the value I set for each of these categories. As I told you before, snow and ice, well, ice is my main category, so I give it a bigger importance than I would give, for example, would buy. I try to make an objective decision. So for example, if some weird Chinese tire came up even though I would never have considered buying, I don't know, like Nexen tires, for example. If they came on top, I'd probably still buy them. So I give the would buy very little importance, but it's still there. Wet is important because most of the time the road is either wet or dry. It's very rarely snow. The only thing is, I find that ice is important because that's when you need your tires to perform. Now, on that odd time, plus I live in a very specific place where the crosswinds cause ice. There's a car um, that has an accident in front of my house every single year. Sometimes it's trucks, sometimes it's cars, but there's been one every single year. So the street like is always icy right in front of my house. It's just a section, but it's still that way. That's why it's so important to me. Finally, comfort and tread wear and price. So I've given them scores based on different reviews that I've looked at, mainly the tire rack stuff. So as you can see, if you look at the top score is the Blizzak WS90. This is in the case of my specific car and the type of tires and the type of use I want in them. Second place went to the Nordfrost, and the third place were the Michelin X Ice Snow. To me, the Akas were very desirable, but because they're so expensive, that's what really hurts them. Also, they have the reputation of being extremely loud, which is not something I enjoy because I drive most of the time on a dry highway anyways, so I want quiet tires as much as possible. The X Ice 3 were the most expensive in my group, surprisingly, because they're not that good. But then, as you can see, I won't go with that. Now, as I said, it's important to look at tires based on what kind of car that you drive, because it really makes a difference. When I was shopping for a minivan, the Nordfrost would come on top, and the Akas would come second, and the Blizzaks would come third, which is strange. But it's just because they don't necessarily have the same models. So when I was shopping for the van, for example, I only had WSS 80s, which were less well rated. So anyways, to wrap this up, when you're shopping for tires, you still need to consider your needs, your specificities. Don't just go with the best is the best, because sometimes the best does not necessarily correspond to what you need. In my case, I need ice protection, not necessarily the top. Anyways, you need to understand tests. Now, reviewers, how do they make their tests? How do they review? Is it user based? Is it professional? No, does that work? Finally, when you're buying, as always, you need objectivity. Now, you need to make the most informed decision because you want to buy the best bang for the buck. And finally, you need the right product at the right price at the right time. So, I mean, even though Blizzaks come on top, if they were not available, could not have gotten them. Akas are hard to come by because you need to go to specialized places. So, they're not always as easy to come by. The same applies to the X-Ice Snow, which were very difficult to obtain this year. So anyways, I'm really happy you stuck with me. I know this is a somewhat lengthy video, and you probably haven't heard anything new in this, but I think that sharing the buying process might interest some people. So I hope to see you next time.